Hello, welcome everyone to our discussion on IP-driven, fandom-driven IP in the world of Web3. My name is Paul Kim. I'm the CEO of Levels, which is a joint venture between Dunamu and Hype. And we are here to discuss how fandom culture has evolved as we transition from Web2 to Web3. Thanks to blockchain technology, NFTs, and token economics, fans are no longer just passive participants in IP. They're active owners, key drivers in each of the respective fields that we'll discuss: gaming, sports, as well as animation. We have three panelists here today, and they're here to share how they're navigating through this transition. Maybe we'll start with quick introductions, starting with Keith, maybe on the far end.
Sure. Hi, guys. I'm Keith. I'm COO of Nextbase. I'm leading MapleStory Universe project, and Nextbase is Nexon's fully owned subsidiary, leading the blockchain, initiatives. And we have brought this iconic IP from the Web2 that actually quite a number of you might grew up playing, right? Including myself. And there's huge fandom that exists, 200 million plus accounts, users that exist in the Web2. And my role is to connect the dots and bring that fandom and actually upgrade their fandom with the introduction of blockchain technology. And to you, Par.
Thank you. Par Helgeson, I'm with PSG Labs. We are a global venture function for PSG, the football club. And what we do is we globally find and we help pilot and accelerate Web3 and blockchain ventures together with our fan base and our internal stakeholders and the different teams we have. Steve?
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Steve Chung. I'm the COO of Azuki. And Azuki, thank you. We have some fans in the audience. Azuki began as an NFT company and started about 3.5 years ago. We're one of the most successful NFT companies of all time with more than $1.3 billion of secondary trading volume. My role there as COO is work with our founders and our team to expand from just the NFT project, which is obviously we're very proud of, to be more expansive to attack the anime fandom. And so we were also a launch partner, and I'm personally a contributor of Anime Coin Foundation as well. Thank you.
Okay, great. I think that gives us a great sense of diversity amongst the fandom ecosystems. I think the first question I'll pose to the entire group is that is a common theme of evolving role of fandom. So how do you think that the fandom has shifted from Web2 to Web3? Maybe Keith?
Yeah, MapleStory over the last 22 years of operations had tremendous amount of fans in the Web2, and they have poured a lot of their time, a lot of their effort, money into playing this game. To build their characters, build their items, and its economy was pretty massive. Its life cycle revenue is well over $5 billion right now for the last 20 years. And the thing is, when it's confined to the Web2 space, their efforts that they poured into, it was very difficult to be translated into a lasting value. But introduction of Web3 and blockchain technology, this became feasible in a way, and because of this technology and because these lasting values, users, the fandom's behavior kind of changed. Exact same fans, but they behave differently in a way. They become more strategic. They're not only no longer chasing only the funds, the accomplishments. They're now being very, very strategic as well. Like, they're also looking at the timing, they're looking at the scarcity, they're looking at the value, and so on. So they're so much more strategic. And because now they own what they create, what they earn through the game, they are no longer just consumers. They started building with us, actually. In the Web2, the relationship between us and the gamers, our fandom, was very one way in a way. Like we create our product, we offer, you play. They were just mere consumers. It is not the case in the Web3. They actually build with us. They build on top of the protocol. They build products that they imagine will actually sometimes outperform our own products. And hopefully I would see this more and more in the future. So very, very different dynamics in there. They're no longer consumers. They're our partners right now. So I think that's very exciting.
Awesome. Par?
Yeah, we had an interesting switch happening the last decade plus, and that is Paris Saint-Germain is probably, for a lot of people, seen as a French club. But when the ownership switched 2011, 2012, roughly 90% of our fan base was inside of France. 2022, more than 92% of our fan base were outside of France. And we have a very interesting demographic now where a little bit more than 80% is under 34 years old. And we have the youngest audience of all clubs in their 20s. And so we have a couple of esports teams as well. We have men, we have women, we have paddle, we have judo, we have, of course, a massive men's team that everybody knows. We won the Champions League this year. And so one of our challenges really is that our fan base is global and they're young, and we see ourselves as the club of the new generation. And we have the next generation of fans. And that behavior means that we need to meet them where they're at. All right? And so the Web 2 and the Web 3 and the attributes that you described, that allows us to see, not only track, but for the purpose of seeing our fans' behavior and how they interact and their behavior across Web 2 and Web 3. And if we tokenize offline events such as games or merchandise and stores, we can tap in and see and reward and engage with our fan base across offline, online, and on-chain. And the interesting thing here is the tokenization of online and offline is done by the Web3 rail, right? You can't really do it the other way around. So by doing that, you can gain more data, more insight, be more relevant in different ways. And I think this is one of the things that all brands and all clubs is what's next, really.
I think those are very good insights to how clubs being operated right now.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve?
Yeah, I think for me, the Web 2 to Web 3 transition in the industry, it kind of mirrors my own personal journey. So prior to Azuki, I was very much a traditional Web 2 media and tech person. So right before, I was the chief global officer of CJ E&M. And prior to that, I was in Hollywood at Fox Corporation. And as I was in the legacy sort of traditional media companies, Bob Iger, who's the CEO of Disney, has a famous quote saying that, general entertainment is dead. So the traditional model of passive consumption in a broadcast world, that's now fundamentally shifted with this new generation. So as I see kind of Web 2 IP and fandom move to Web 3, the ideas that the other panelists here talked about, which is more participatory and ownership and sort of decentralized sort of togetherness. I think those are the themes that I see, and certainly for Azuki, we have this vision of an anime 2.0, where you take a fandom like anime, which is a $30 billion a year industry, 500 million fans around the world, and basically what we want to do is restructure this so that the fans can also own the IP, they can participate together, they can grow together, and that it's a much more of a participatory fandom. And that's where real power comes in. So for Azuki, when you have the NFT and you actually put it on your Twitter account or X account, and that becomes your personal profile picture, that's a very different emotion, and it's a character that only you own. That's a very different emotional connection than if you are a passive consumer of some IP. and you buy the T-shirt, right? So this sort of represents your identity. So to us, that transition from a passive consumption to a forward, proactive, participatory, financialized sometimes ownership of the fandom is just fundamentally different. And we think this is a new vision of the world, and for us, we call it Anime 2.0.
Awesome, thank you. I think those are just great details, but I wanna delve more into each specific project, maybe starting with MapleStory. But before we discuss, the Web3 component of the game, MapleStory, I just want to set the stage. It has been its success, popularity, longevity is unheard of in the world of MMORPG. What do you think is the success factor behind it?
Oh, well, I think there's not just a single point that can create the longevity, the popularity, and the lasting fandom over an IP. It's, of course, it must be the quality of the game, and how focused and how the developers love the game. So and they also kind of resonate with what their core users love about the game. But also there's areas like live operations. You should be able to detect the bots. A lot of games fail because of many little reasons they kind of build up. We call that live operations in Nexon, and we have over 1,000-man organization called Intelligence Labs that focuses fully on those live operations of the game. And I think these little things on top of great game devs, great ideas, kind of build up, over time. And the game gets better over time, actually, over the 20+ years of live operations.
Right. My next question is then, how do you incorporate the Web3 component, Web3 aspects into something that's already immensely popular? Are there any challenges that you've run into, or?
Absolutely, yes. Many challenges, to be honest, and especially when the conventional, the Web2 items becomes an asset that has real value in the world. The perspective, how our gamers and users perceive, becomes totally different in a way. And also exploits like macros, botters, scripts. The sheer scale of attacks that we receive is unprecedented. I mean, Nexon has live operation expertise for over 20, 30 years, and this amount of attack and attempted exploits are unheard of. So that's something that's pretty wild. But there are these, and also when we look at game balancing, for example, MapleStory is essentially a MMORPG that needs a good balancing. When these balancing kind of affects on your items earning ratio, your winning ratio and all this, and they have a conspicuous value attached to it. People gets more heated, of course, so am I, and it gets more difficult. So we are actually trying to create an open economy that is actually dedicated and dictated by the market, not by us. In Web 2, we set the rules, we don't change the rules, and actually we can change the rule whenever we want to, and the gamers have less say about it. Now we have totally reimagined how this could work. We have made an economy where it's fully governed and run by the users. Dynamic pricing, we don't set price, by the way, and dynamic pricing, dynamic rewards, so everything is ran by the market. So these are pretty new changes, and I think we are only doing our first few baby steps into building a decentralized game in terms of users' interaction, not just technology, but users' interaction with the game. They're no longer just consuming our contents, but they're building the whole ecosystem and business with us. So a lot of challenges that we're facing, but when you have a team behind that has operational expertise, I think it becomes an exciting challenge.
Right, but how do you then manage the expectations? How do you set the expectations? Like, I would have to imagine they're different based on whether you're a Web 2 user, traditional Web 2 user, or new Web 3, tech savvy user. How do you balance that?
So they are actually very different groups of users, to be honest. But I think essentially, after all, they are looking for a content that is going to last, that is going to be entertaining. So we are not full of, for example, those exploiters or gamers who are just only there for economic return, but rather, even across Web 2 and Web 3 user bases, our core users are always the same, actually. They're seeking after the fun, seeking after the entertainment, but with the added financial and blockchain layers, interoperability layers, and the ability for them to build on top of our product and also monetize and be rewarded for it. I think essentially we have much wider audience rather than a totally different segment of users. So in a way, their expectations are different, but at the core, they're the same. And we believe sticking true to this central goal of creating a sustainable economy, open economy on top of a great content, I think that's the way to go.
Awesome. And you talked briefly about user base becoming active participants. Mm-hmm. Can you maybe give out a quick example of a real if any user has influenced an outcome, and how did that come about?
There's, I would say, two examples. One is internally in the game. So we have something called dynamic pricing. We don't really set the price of an item enhancements, which was very, very different approach from what we had in the Web 2, where we had a fixed price where we set, and we rarely change those set prices over the years, right? And now in Web 3 MapleStory N, our system doesn't know the price. So we just observe users' enhancement patterns and set the price accordingly. If there's more demands, the price go up. There's less demands, the price goes down. And there were quite a few cases where those whale players actually came in with a huge amount of capital, and they were enhancing certain items like overnight, right? Like spending a lot of money. And that item became virtually unenhanceable, because it's too expensive. It was prohibitively expensive to the most users. While that is not what exactly we intended, but that's one of the way how individual users have direct impact on the game economy. The second case is that we are currently working with about 100 developers using our APIs. We are also preparing a chain where they can deploy their smart contracts and build their own applications, own games using MapleStory IP. And I'm one of the notable example is one of the builder team is working on Move to Earn project with pets that exist in MapleStory items, with the shoes that these equipment items that exist in MapleStory. They're building Move to Earn project. This is just a little example. There's healthcare applications coming up. There's basically a new game using our interoperable NFTs coming up, being built by the communities, not by us. So that was a pretty cool example to see how they're no longer consumers, but they're partners and builders of MapleStory.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really amazing to see how you're exploring uncharted territories with what's already immensely popular out in the Web 2 world. Thank you for that. On to sports part. PSG, I think half the audience, more than half the audience, is very familiar with the club. That's how we Koreans do it. If there's a Korean guy in the club, we're all in.
Right. We have Kang League.
And then, we get up at 4 a.m. to watch the Champions League final, even when Lee Kang-in doesn't even play. So, that's how avid we are as Korean fans. But speaking of TV, sports fans usually engage in sports through TV or going to stadiums. How do you get them to adapt in the Web 3 world?
Well, I think it's one of the anchor challenges we have, and everybody that has a massive audience that you reach globally through broadcasting. And that is, when you broadcast, everybody jumps in, and then after it's done, it's over, and you can't really retarget or re-engage, or at least at scale, it's very difficult. And one of the things that we're looking at now is we're looking to do now and in the future through PSG Labs Ventures, we're looking to have our fan base that is Web 2. I think in many ways, is not different than Web 3, but I think the hurdle was that you needed to know a lot of technology in order to get into Web 3. We have a user interface and a user experience challenge in our industry, if you will. If you take that away, we can bridge over the Web 2 and provide a better experience by, in our case, we want to be able to connect our fan base across the domains of offline, what you consume and your behavior, with online and on-chain. And I think up until now, everybody probably in the room has a monetization KPI, how much money we can make. We didn't really capture the behavior or even the data sets on it because we couldn't really at scale track them across, right? And so when it comes to broadcasting, I think that is the old model where you broadcast, it's here I give you, or here I sell you something, right? And to your point before, now it becomes not only a brand communication or story communication or content communication, now it becomes a brand engagement and a store engagement and a game engagement. And in that, I think, to mention what you already said a little bit, were the co-creation, I think in the service of, and one of the key things that we're looking to update is that we talk about fandom, and I think many have fandom up until now a little bit incorrect, and that meaning it's always been about the fan being loyal to the brand and the story and the game and the club, where I think it's supposed to be the other way around, where it's about us being loyal to you. How can we be in the service of you? How can we enable you to do all of the things that we mentioned on the panel, to co-create with our IP, to allow our network of distribution? We talk about 500 million in reach here in the ecosystem, right? We have roughly 500 million in reach in PSG, in our social channels, with our sponsors and with our players. So we have a massive market, we have distribution, we have content IP, we have a large volume of fans out there that would love to engage in different ways with us, that we can be in the enablement and service for them, right, or with them. And I think that's a part of, for everybody, really, right? But coming back to broadcasting, one of the things that we are looking to now is that in the future, we will pilot soon now where we're going to have you as a fan, when you look at our content in some of the markets, maybe not the primary markets, you would also become an active streaming node. So you would actually become a part of the network and broadcast it. And as a part of that, you would be rewarded. And I think that really fundamentally changes how we see and engage with our fan base, right? Because we can unlock different markets that we really couldn't unlock before because of price or simply the cost of doing streaming content, right? And so broadcasting, I think, will be with us for a long time, and it will be complemented with those who broadcast can also be an active fan in the consumption and the engagement, if you will, right, in different ways.
Awesome. I want to talk about fan tokens a little bit. You guys all obviously have issued fan tokens on Chili's. You're a validator in the blockchain.
Right.
Can you maybe describe for the audience what it does and what you're trying to do by issuing fan tokens?
Right. So we have a PSG fan token, such as many other clubs have, and as a club owning and engaging with a fan token, we decided to not only have the token to be engaged with our fan base, we actually run a node validator with Chili's. And what we do is we take the rewards from that and actually buy back PSG tokens, not to burn, but actually to pay for trips, tickets, and merchandise that we engage our fan base with, so as to build up that part of our fan base, right? And so PSG fan tokens were a part of almost like the last wave. Many think we're looking for the next bull run now, but I think clubs and the ecosystem wasn't really ready what to do with it. What we see naturally for fan tokens is that it's an excellent asset for global engagement, for global rewards, right? For being a part of our reward membership and loyalty engagements, if you will. And they can be done in different ways, right? Different clubs will have different ways to do that. We're looking to do it as natively as we can. And I think the biggest challenge before versus now is before it was maybe a little bit living in its own silo, just like we talk about Web3 being separate. And now we're taking that barrier away and simply say we have a fan token. Where can we natively integrate it? Where can we use it as a gate to an experience? How can we use it as a reward in different products or services, or maybe membership that you would buy from the club simply, right? And so I think these are a part of the future.
One last quick question. So how do you ensure that these partnership clubs and all these reward programs, everything is real, as opposed to somebody who just might come in and say, isn't it just a tech add-on? Is it like how do you ensure the integrity of it?
Well, there's a lot of components to it. One is internal education, what it can provide in terms of value and outcome, not only maybe a monetary component or a data component, right? Another thing I think is that I think now we have arrived where the technology is good enough to simply be integrated. I listen to other panels here talk about gas fees, and you need to remember specific codes and things like that. And being natively integrated into our products is a very different proposition with our fan base versus before. We talk about everything's being safe in crypto, right? But it doesn't mean the user is feeling safe, right? And so I think there's many angles towards that that kind of have to be a part of it. And I think we have to pilot a lot more. So we decided that we're chain agnostic in that way. So we're looking at higher up in the value chain on the products and the content and the service and the games, and iterate a lot. So PSG Labs is actually built to capture Web3, ventures that has really cool products across the infrastructure and the whole value chain up until the fan integration, right? Fan engagement, to simply figure it out. Because we talk about Web3 now, or before it was Web 2 and then it was Web 1, and it's all built on each other. It's not really going to disappear, right? But the best way to see our fans and reward and engage them is absolutely on a tokenized rail, right? Because then we can track them across these domains, and we can actually see and reward and engage our fans for who they are, not only maybe what they buy, right?
Yep. Thank you for those details. And last but not least, Steve, sorry I made you wait for so long.
No problem. This was great conversation.
Let's talk about Azuki. Azuki's pathway has been a little bit different in the sense that it started out as a Web3 project, is now expanding into Web2 world. What's your vision of balancing of both worlds?
Well, I think maybe, like the theme of today's conference to the mainstream, I think all of us in the Web3 space, it really shouldn't be like, well, this is the Web2 thing and this is the Web3 thing. I think the most important thing is, do we have an amazing product that people want to use? And do we have something beautiful that people want to own? And do we bring utility that seems almost seamless, that you don't think about the technology behind it? So for us, our mission, like as I mentioned, is about Anime 2.0. If you are a fan of anime, we want you to be within the Azuki universe. So with that, we have a platform, for example, anime.com, which aspires to be the social media platform for anime fans around the world. the rails upon which anime.com is built is Web3 integrated. But frankly, we don't really care if you are a Web 2 user or a Web 3 user. If you love anime, we want you to come and be part of anime.com. So the fact that you connect a wallet, there should be a purpose for it. The fact that there are things you can purchase or do things. So I think it may have been one of the executives or founders of Upbit who said, that technology should be kind of invisible to the user for it to feel very natural. So for us, we don't make a distinction between, well, this has to be a Web 2 thing or a Web 3 thing. I think we really focus on like the end user experience as the primal or the primacy of importance from our priorities. So anime.com is one example. We are producing anime TV and shorts, sort of referencing our anime or Azuki IP. We, of course, have Anime Coin as a launch partner, which is a very Web3 product that's listed on Upbit as well. I think for us, it's about like, what does a fan in 2025 who love anime, how should they engage? And if crypto is something that the Gen Z want to interact with, we have a crypto product. If the fans need a social media place where they can hang out, we go to anime.com. If they want a fresh anime IP, they can watch some Azuki IP on YouTube or Weibo or streaming platforms to come. So I think that's the way we approach it, and I think it behooves all of us in this room to focus on how can we make this just amazing experiences and really take it to mainstream. So that's how we view it.
I would think you probably have to work a lot with animation, not only fans, but animation pros. Were there any cultural differences that you had to hash out working with illustrators, artists?
Oh yes,
and so forth?
Every day. So for Japanese anime, actually, a lot of anime is still done by hand, and a lot of them haven't made the shift to even digital. And so I think we have to meet the industry to some degree where it is. I mean, we just formed a joint venture studio with 2 Japanese animation studio partners, as well as Will Smith's production company called Westbrook. And there we want to sort of take the best of our animation talent out of Japan and pair it with US producers to hopefully create something amazing like K-pop Demon Hunters. That was a Korean topic with a Japanese studio with amazing Korean American music, and you have magic, right? So there's a lot of cultural clashes, but I think for me personally and for the company, we all have to be ambassadors and translators between Web 2, Web 3, between Asia and the United States, between fans and creators, and so I really love the fact that Azuki is playing kind of that translation layer across cultures, and that's part of the fun.
Right. You mentioned anime 2.0, but I would think from a fan's perspective, there has to be some people that are skeptical out there who are not, used to the entire world of Web3. How do you bring them on board?
Well, that's what I mean. I think when K-pop Demon Hunters was being developed, people were like, nobody's going to watch that. Netflix wasn't marketing it. Why should we market that? And suddenly it's a #1 movie on Netflix. I think for us too, it's the quality of the Azuki IP has to be great. It has to be fun. It has to be engaging. And so that's kind of the way we take to the mainstream theme is we don't lead with this is Web3, and by the way, it's this. We lead with this is an amazing experience. This is a great art. You love it. You have emotional attachment, and it happens to be Web3. When you pick up the phone, you don't say, "Wow, I'm using a 5G cellular tower that does mesh networks." Like we don't talk like that, right? We say, "I talk to my mother, my wife or kids," and I think that's what we need to sort of start changing. And people like MapleStory and PSG and Azuki, our role, I think, is to connect the mainstream to the retail to make it really feel live without all the complexities of the technology. That's what I think sort of our groups here represent today.
Yep. Well, thank you all for those great details. Let's finish off the session with the forward-looking question. Looking ahead, how do you see fandom shaping your brand, your IP in the world of Web3?
I hope to see our builders build more successful games than what we're building, because we're only like 150 men in one company. There's 200 million users out there, and let's imagine 1% of them is builder. We'll have hundreds of thousands of builders building MapleStory IP, building something more successful than what we're building. And that's, I think, how we can go forward with blockchain technology, Web3.
I think obviously keep doing what we're doing, which is winning on the pitch, having great content. The PSG brand is extending outside of sports, and really it's becoming a lifestyle brand. In the service of the fan base, enabling them, co-creating with them, whatever that means, and of course doing the, let's say, data and transactional components, but like that is now switching at scale. And powered by AI, I think this is going to be able to be done in ways that are meaningful for the market of what I call one, because we're so many people in here, but we might be interested in the same thing in general, but we want a unique and individual relationship or ownership, if you will, and I think we now arrived. We can actually provide that. And I think that's going to be very interesting to do at volume, but also very individual in that intersection.
Yep.
Yeah, for us, I guess two things. One is we love our Azuki fans, and we want to do right by them. And so we're going to do everything we can to make this one of the biggest IPs of all time. But secondly, I think the global nature of what Web3 can bring, this fact that you can reduce transaction costs across the globe and be efficient and be near instant. I think you apply that to fandom, and I think there's a real value for Web3 to be used in this global way that brings people from all over the world together into one shared platform. I think that's kind of the promise of Web3, and do it together and sort of win together. So that's our vision.
Yep. Unfortunately, time's up. I think that's a perfect way to close our panel discussion. A big thank you to our three panelists, as well as everyone who joined us in the audience. Thank you.